Are you not entertained? And I was entertained. Gladiator II. After his home is conquered by the tyrannical brother emperors who now lead Rome, Lucius is forced to enter the Colosseum and must look to his past to find the strength to return the glory of a free Rome to its people.
Strength among us! I don't fight for power. I fight to free Rome from men like them.
So this is one of my most anticipated films of the year because the first Gladiator film that came out in 2000 is my go-to answer whenever someone says, you know, what is your favorite movie of all time? Or like, what's one of your favorite movies? My go-to answer is Gladiator. It always has been. It's the film that made me want to become like a filmmaker, a producer, a writer, a director. Gladiator was like my first rated R, you know, sneaking into a movie theater experience. Going into Gladiator II, I was optimistic but really quite skeptical. When they first announced a bunch of years ago that they were going to make a Gladiator II, I went, please God, no!
No! God, please, no! No! No!
So, what did I think of Gladiator II? This movie was actually pretty good, I have to say. Ultimately, it delivered a really fun, entertaining sequel film. There's definitely some things about it that we need to talk about, but I'll first start off with the good stuff. I thought Ridley Scott directed an awesome movie. That is the first and foremost. Ridley Scott is one of my favorite directors of all time. He has amazing cinematography, usually great action, great acting, awesome pacing, and that's what I look for in a good story. Now, I have to admit, the last few movies that Ridley Scott has directed,
Not good.
I think the last film that he directed that I thought was really quite amazing was The Martian. You know, and I didn't really like House of Gucci very much. Same with like The Last Duel. This was the first time in many years that I went, wow, this is an amazing movie. Ridley Scott is back. And I mean, the man is 86 years old and he's still making films like this. Bravo, Ridley Scott. Keep it up, man. Keep it up.
Let's do that again!
The story of this film is really cool and complex and a lot more in depth about like the politics and, you know, the kind of Game of Thrones sort of aspect about Rome that they didn't really have too much in the last film. This movie has a lot more intrigue and different things happening all at once with the emperors, with Denzel Washington's character trying to make a vie for power, Pedro Pascal and Connie Nielsen and their plotline, and then also, of course, you have Paul Mescal in the middle of it as our gladiator. And so there's a lot more story to this film. Yes, there are some story retreads and some really close similarities that this movie definitely echoes from the first one.
Echoes in eternity.
But not enough that I thought like they completely copied it. Like they changed enough about the story and the characters in the story that it wasn't just a complete retread of Maximus' story from the original film. The cinematography is bang on in this film. This is one of the better looking movies of the year. Was astonishing, and the production design along with the cinematography is breathtaking. Like the sets that they built were just magnificent. Like this is epic scale filmmaking at its finest, and of course only from Sir Ridley Scott. The costumes, the lighting, the way that this movie just looks epic and dazzling on the big screen was so much fun to see again. And I love these kind of films. For me, like historical epic, you know, war drama films are kind of like one of my favorite movie genres. The action is awesome. There's a great battle scene at the beginning of the movie that's really cool. Of course, the fight scenes, like the hand-to-hand combat moments between the two like human gladiators in this film is just awesome. The fight scene between Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal was awesome as well. I will say the action in the original film had more of an impact and it was more earned, it felt like, where this movie was a lot more playing into the action and, you know, making it really cool and stuff, but the emotional weight behind the action wasn't quite there. I really thought that Denzel Washington was a standout. He was great in this film. Now, I'm not putting down Denzel Washington. I just think, like, For the writing aspect of this character, there wasn't much to it ultimately, even though it was fun to watch him on screen.
I run shit here!
Connie Nielsen, who is fantastic. I love having her back on screen again. She's even better in this movie than I think even in the first one. You do get a little bit more time with her as this character in this film than you do in the original, and I love that. She is just great in this movie. No wonder why she was in like Wonder Woman and stuff like that. She just is born as a natural fit for these kind of films. The two guys who played the two brother emperors, they were so good. Over the top performances. Yes, a little bit, out of the style of the Gladiator movie. But what they did was so much fun and hilarious and just crazy, psychotic, performances that I loved what these two did. They were so entertaining. Pedro Pascal is also awesome in this movie. I loved seeing him in like a gladiator outfit fighting and kicking ass in the arena and on the battlefield. And he is definitely, again, another great performance in this movie. Let's talk about the main role in this movie. And first of all, I have to say Paul Mescal, great actor, phenomenal. I love him. He's fantastic in All of Us Strangers. After Sun was like one of my favorite movies of that year, and he had one of the best performances of that year. Really, like overall, he did a great job. Like there isn't anything necessarily wrong with his performance. He's really good. And when it comes to like the action and the physicality that this role demands, he's great. But definitely Lucius is not as well written as Maximus. The character is not as interesting. It's not as fun. It doesn't have the same gravitas that Russell Crowe had in the original film. This is an epic story. This is an epic film. And you need an epic performance from your main character. And we just didn't quite get that from Paul Mescal. Paul Mescal is a subtle actor. He just doesn't have that epic sort of speech, rallying the troops kind of vibe to him. Now, part of that is the writing, I will say. Part of it is that John Logan wrote, I think, a much more superior script in the first film. The writing is a bit shoddy, as I already mentioned. They do retread some things from the first film. But I also really didn't like the ending of this film. Like, it wrapped up almost anticlimactic. And it's too bad, because at the end of the first Gladiator film, you're so invested by the end. The last 15-20 minutes, you're just emotionally there with the character of Maximus, and as he fights Commodus in the arena, like it's such a rousing, amazing, historically epic moment in film. And in this movie, the ending was like, okay.
Wow, that was weird.
Left me with like a weird taste in my mouth, and that's too bad, because the most of this film is really cool, and it's got this, propulsive feel to it. But after the fight between Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal, the film kind of pithers out in the last 25 minutes or so. Even though there's a really cool action scene, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't feel earned. The writing wasn't quite there. The pacing was a bit off because of the editing. I thought some of the editing choices, they cut things too short. They had some scenes that were way too long. Kind of created a little bit of an uneven pacing of film. And because this movie, it is a sequel, like most studio films that end up becoming a sequel, they went for a bigger and bolder sort of vision. That means that the fight scenes in the Colosseum are bigger, and there's a lot more elements to it. Because the first film had tigers in the arena, it feels like with this film for Gladiator II, the studio heads went, all right, we need more animals in the arena.
Spins out of control, and it's all like, brush, in this huge tanker full of dynamite, crawl.
So they threw in a bunch of like CGI baboons and monkeys, and then sharks at one point. The CGI when it came to the animals looked horrible. Not very good. Like, I would say kind of like 2004, 2005, if you can think about that time frame in film history and what the CGI used to look like. It clashes with the tone of a Gladiator II film, Ultimately, I had a great time with this movie. I'm a little bit biased because the first Gladiator film is one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite. Well entertained, and I thought they pulled it together, and this movie was definitely worth making. Even if it isn't quite as strong as the original, it's a little bit of diminishing returns, but it's not a bad movie at all. Like, people are giving this movie like a 60, 65, 70%. Okay, go ahead. You go and try and make a historical epic this good. Before I get my final thoughts and grade on this film, if you like this video, please make sure you click that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. Comment down below, what did you think of Gladiator II? Were you excited for this film? What is your favorite Ridley Scott movie? I would love to hear your thoughts and comments down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for doing that. I would recommend this movie and definitely go check it out in the theaters. It's a kind of film that needs to be seen on a big screen. So overall, I'm gonna go ahead and give Gladiator II an A-. Come back and check out some other movie reviews, such as another movie kind of about Rome, well, the Vatican, Conclave, and Anora. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you on the next movie review.